If you, like me, don't understand why Ranunculus by Midori Hirose is so popular, stay with me and let's figure it out together. Every time when I check the Hot Right Now page on Ravelry, Ranunculus is in the top 10. So I decided to figure out what is the secret to its popularity. The first nice thing that stands out immediately is the gauge. It is only 14 stitches per 10 centimeters, which means that it will be a very quick project. Because of that loose gauge, you can use a huge range of different yarns. The pattern says you can use lace to worsted weight yarn. Since the gauge is big, you wouldn't need a large amount of yarn either. I decided to go with Lana Grossa Setasuri. It is 69% suri alpaca and 31% silk. This color is 67. I'm also curious how long this sweater will actually take me to knit, so I'll be timing myself throughout the whole process. Another thing that I believe really contributes to the pattern's popularity is how well written it is. It is clearly structured, divided into distinct sections. There are videos for pretty much every step. Each section also comes with an illustration that shows exactly what you'll be knitting on this stage. I think that all makes the whole process much easier and clearer to follow. You start with the neck ribbing. There are two options, the smaller neckline and the wider neckline. I have chosen the smaller one. Then you work German short rows for both front and back. And after that, you move on to the yoke. This is another thing that I suppose really catch the people's attention. The yoke is worked in a gorgeous stitch pattern, which is not difficult at all. By the way, it is my first ever round yoke sweater. I have always been a bit skeptical of this construction since I wasn't sure that it would suit me, but I decided to give it a try. And as a bonus of the round yoke construction, there is almost no purling involved, which is always great. I have already finished the yoke. It took me 5 hours and 9 minutes. I was worried this stitch pattern might look blurry or get lost in this yarn, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. So far, I'm loving everything about this. Let's see what comes next. I've divided stitches for the body and sleeves, and my first skein is finished. So it took 25 grams to knit these parts. I have 2 more skeins left. I guess one will go for the rest of the body and one for the sleeves. I spent 1 more hour and 2 minutes, so in total it took 6 hours and 11 minutes to reach this point. I'm using my favorite trick while knitting in the round. My left needle is 2 sizes smaller, so it helps me to knit faster. There are 2 options for the sleeves, short and long. I have chosen the long version. And by the way, versatility is also one of the features of this pattern. You can knit a small or a big neckline, short or long sleeves. There is an interesting technique used while dividing stitches for the body and sleeves to prevent holes under the arm. And I have never seen this technique, so I'm curious to see how it will look like after I pick up stitches for the sleeves. I can't decide whether the armhole is big enough, so I think I will first knit the sleeves and then continue with the rest of the body. Otherwise, it will be terrible to knit the whole body and after that realize that the armholes are too small. I finished the sleeves. The first sleeve took 3 hours and 47 minutes, the second 3 hours and 46 minutes. So in total, I've spent 13 hours and 33 minutes. To be honest, I thought that the sleeves would take less time, but the problem is that there are no decreases along the sleeves, which makes it boring and slow to knit. You don't get that satisfaction of decreasing the stitches and feeling that you're knitting faster and faster as you go. Another reason why it took so much time to finish the sleeves is that I was knitting them using the short needles. It is the denim set by Knit Pro, and my hands get tired very quickly and it's very uncomfortable to knit using these needles. I tried Magic Loop, but I was getting those loose stitches at the joint, so I had to switch to the short needles. They're also wooden, that's why the yarn doesn't glide smoothly either. I'd like to try another set of short needles. I've seen that Chiagu has one. Do you know any other sets of short needles? Have you tried them? I'd be glad if you left some recommendations in the comments. Surprisingly, 1 skein is not enough for 2 sleeves. I had to start my last skein. It took 31 grams for the sleeves and I have only 19 grams left, which is obviously not enough to finish the rest of the body. and probably I wouldn't be able to find the same dye lot, so I might end up with different colors, which is annoying. And they say that knitting is a calming and relaxing hobby. Anyway, about the sleeves, as I have already mentioned, there are no decreases along the sleeve. There are decreases right before the cuff, but there are instructions how to make German short rolls to create the diagonal cuff line, which I have never seen before, and I decided to try it just to see how it works. Actually, there is no huge difference, so I think you might skip this section. And the sleeve finishes with an I-cord bind-off. So now I just have to finish the rest of the body, but first find one more skein somewhere. For now, I've knitted this much and I decided to stop to show you the problems I faced. First of all, since it is a round yoke, it goes like this. You can see that the bottom has a similar shape. It is shorter on the sides, which looks a bit weird. But it's not the biggest problem. I hope you can see that the back looks shorter than the front. It is very disappointing. There were German short rolls for both front and back when you start the yoke, and there were more short rolls on the back to make it longer, but I guess it wasn't enough. It's very uncomfortable when the back is shorter than the front, so I guess now I'll have to knit some German short rolls for the back to make it longer. My Ranunculus is ready, it is already blocked. In the end, I'll tell you how much time I spent in total, but first let's talk about the process and my controversial thoughts about this pattern. After finishing my last skein, I went to the local yarn store that sells this yarn, but unfortunately they didn't have this color, so I went to another yarn store and luckily they had this color, and even better, they had the same dye lot. Isn't that a miracle? I did German short rolls on the sides and back to make them a bit longer, and now I'm happy with the bottom line. The body finishes with 1x1 ribbing with twisted knits, and I spent 4 grams of the new yarn skein. After blocking, the sleeves grew a lot. I had to unravel quite a bit, and it was impossible to unravel an I-cord bind-off and German short rolls, so I ended up cutting all the sleeves. I decided not to do German short rolls that create a diagonal cuff line. I just decreased the stitches and made an I-cord bind-off. And you know what? The amount of yarn I cut off weighs exactly 4 grams. So if I had knitted the correct sleeves length, I wouldn't have needed to buy an extra yarn skein, which is crazy. So in total, the sweater weighs 75 grams. I like the result. The sweater is cute and feminine, but I don't really understand the idea behind this pattern. I totally get it when designers simplify their patterns at the expense of a better fit, like Petite Knit does. They want to reach a wider audience and make their patterns more beginner-friendly. And I also get it when designers build complicated patterns for a better fit, like Morika Knit does. But with Ranunculus, I don't understand the idea. There are German short rolls at the neckline, but they are not enough. The back is still shorter than the front. There are German short rolls on the sleeves to create a diagonal cuff line, which I don't find significant at all. You can barely see the difference. So the pattern isn't beginner friendly because of the German short rolls. I don't find German short rolls difficult at all, but I understand that many people avoid them. But at the same time, the fit isn't good enough, so this inconsistency doesn't make sense to me. In the end, I have mixed feelings about this pattern. I'll probably knit one more Ranunculus, but with my own modifications for a better fit. Maybe I'm just very picky and everyone else is happy with the pattern without any modifications. In total, I spent 18 hours and 6 minutes. If you have knitted the Ranunculus, please let me in the comments what do you think about this pattern and why do you think it became so popular. Thank you for watching this video and see you in my next video. Bye bye!